Yeah. Okay, so it's recording now.
All right. Okay, so basically, these I have 4 questions, and it's go and, and I think they're going to be effective questions for this interview. The first one is: do you think that workers are affected by corporate greed?
It depends on the situation. I think there's some it's corporate greed. I'll go back to the kind of the fundamentals of economics. And so one of the assumptions that we have is that people are making decisions based on their self-interest, and that can be a positive thing. And so if that's the case, and everybody is genuinely doing things in their best interest, then that leads to efficiency in the market. Where I see things kind of going off is when there's unfair trade practices going on, or if there's lobbyists getting involved. And in those situations, I definitely see a situation where workers can be hurt by greed.
All right. Next question. Do you think CEOs pay their taxes? Yes or no? If no, do you think CEOs should pay their taxes like everyone else so it's fair to everyone?
Again, I would say this is on a case-by-case basis. There's definitely those examples where we see CEOs or someone that makes a large amount of money doing things to get around taxes, paying taxes. And so while their marginal tax rate is still very high, they're able to have different deductions, or else they might send it overseas. There's different ways of avoiding the taxation. One way that a lot of economists suggest that instead of having a marginal tax rate with all of the potential ways of deductions and getting out of paying taxes is to have a flat tax. There's many parts of Europe that have this, and that would basically, it would get rid of a lot of accounting jobs, but it would make a situation where all of these ways of avoiding taxes would be made impossible. And so that would require everybody to pay a certain percentage of their taxes, of their income going towards taxes. Right now, theoretically, we have a progressive tax rate. And so those that earn more pay a higher percentage of their taxes. And in many cases, that's where 90% of our tax revenues come from those that are considered to be in the wealthy in the US. And so definitely the wealthy people do pay the majority of the taxes, but there are those that get around it. So I think it's not a clear-cut yes or no answer to that. It's definitely something to consider. Problems with our tax code is really causes a lot of those problems. And then all the accountants, they get paid a whole lot of money to find ways to get around paying those taxes.
All right, next question I have for you. The next question I have is: do you believe that some CEOs, like Jeff Bezos, like the CEO of Amazon, right? You know him.
Yes.
Shouldn't collect billions, if not trillions, of dollars during the COVID-19 pandemic?
It depends. I mean, the whole idea of if you're providing a service that people are willing to pay for, then, and if you're having added productivity, then that's a situation where those people, you should get paid for the higher productivity that's happening. Just like any employee should be getting paid for their increased productivity. It's hard to justify the crazy amounts of money that some of the people like Jeff Bezos are earning. And so how you're going to justify showing that his productivity is actually worth that income, that's where there gets to be definitely a concern. And so I think, again, you'd have to do the calculations. Is your productivity equal to your wage, his wage? I'd have a hard time justifying that for him personally. But if he goes through and looks at, okay, so what I did with these policies and these things as a CEO, did that lead to this many profits? Then there would be a way to justify it. employees, and you can look at it, I mean, like if you look at Amazon, people have chosen to, they've increased their minimum wage. They were the first one to increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour. And so people use them as an example of putting more money or putting more power back to the employees even. And so that's an interesting example because that's kind of one of those mixed case studies.
All right. Because I feel during that time when COVID happened, I feel like if workers still worked in Amazon during during COVID, I think it's literally not fair how they are risking their lives to sell products to the workers going to warehouse and whatnot and risking their lives without getting benefits for it during COVID.
Right. And I think, and that's when, I mean, and that is a tricky situation. I understand exactly what you're saying, and there's many people that have that same concern.
All right. Final question. Do you have any concerns or anything to add on this issue about corporate greed?
I don't know. We could talk for hours about this. There was a great show that was on this years ago that I can't even tell you what it was, but it was kind of, it looks at greed from both a positive and a negative perspective. So obviously the term, when I hear the word greed, it brings up a negative connotation. But when I think about it from a pure economic perspective of people working in their self-interest and that leading to greater efficiencies, then the results can be both positive and negative. And so I don't know if that's a great answer or a great conclusion to it, but there are, just as with most things, there's a balance to it, and finding that balance, avoiding cheating. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cheating. There's lobbyists get paid to encourage lawmakers to create laws that benefit certain industries over others or certain companies over others.
Right.
Bribing that takes place, all of the different ways that people try and evade taxes. Those are all going outside the economic system, and so those take us into a place where it is just true greed. In terms of economics, if you're truly getting compensated for the work you're doing, and if you happen to be an amazing worker, you should get paid for being an amazing worker or having creative ideas, that innovation. Those things I look at as positives.
All right. I think that might be all the time that we have.
All right. Well, it was nice talking with you.